What's good, everybody, man? It's your boy Solid back with another solid reaction. And today, man, we got Bill Walton, man. I'm not a big fan of Bill Walton. I didn't really watch him, so I can't tell you that he's great or not, bro. This is actually my first time getting to react to him, so we're going to go ahead and check this one out, man. If y'all are new to this channel, man, make sure y'all hit that subscribe button. If you're a returning subscriber, make sure y'all hit that like button. And if you're always on the channel, man, comment something down below and let me know that you've been showing love since I started this. But we're going to get into this one, man. Now, I don't know much about Bill Walton. It's not like I sit here and watched him. But I know he played with Bird. I know I got the little ins and outs. I don't know the whole package, but they saying he's the greatest two-way impactful player. So we're going to go ahead and check this one out, man, and see what's going on, bro, because I'm really looking forward to this one.
About Bill Walton that few players can match. Blazer mania, that fiery mountain man beard, and countless injuries that ended his prime as soon as it began. His first two seasons were shortened by an assortment of ailments before a brief 2-year stretch in 1977 and 1978 that yielded an NBA championship and an MVP trophy. So, just how good were those 2 seasons? Was that brief peak enough to compete with the most dominant centers in NBA history? And was he the greatest passing big man of all time?
Okay.
Where's Larry Bird in all this? Has it blocked by Elijah?
Michael Jordan saves the day.
This series tackles one question. Who was the best at his best? We start at the ABA merger and go through the best multi-year stretches, examining the legends who provided the most on-court impact. These are the greatest peaks.
Ooh, I like that. Okay. Bill Walton.
There's the body goes to get it low to Walton. Turn around, jumper, good! Bill Walton!
Look at this.
Before we can estimate Walton's impact, it's important to understand the way the game was played before the three-point line. With so many shots funneled into the paint and no extra point for stretching out the court, defensive big men were titans back then. The definitive basketball archetype wasn't a high-flying scoring guard, but a dominant center. And no, not Wilt Chamberlain, but his rival Bill Russell. Russell's defensive genius reigned over the prior decade, where he won 5 MVPs without being a heavy scorer on offense. That's worth repeating. Wilt Chamberlain once averaged 50 points per game in a season, but the zeitgeist of the time was to play like Russell. In 1967, after years of volume scoring, Chamberlain's own coach asked him to play like Russell, shoot less, pass more, protect the paint. And this led to a new record for wins and an end to the Celtics' 8 consecutive title streak. The search for the next Russell peaked in 1969 when a rookie, Wes Unseld, won the MVP by playing a team-centric pass, rebound, and defend role that Russell was glorified for playing. And that's exactly how Walton played, only with greater scoring skill than either Unseld or Russell.
Oh my God.
As a sophomore in college, he was compared to both Russ and Chamberlain, and as a junior authored arguably the greatest single-game performance in NCAA history,
Whoa. What type of shot is that? I'm sorry. I seen that. Oh God.
Authored arguably the greatest single-game performance
okay.
in NCAA
I mean, it is what
history,
it is. If it worked,
going 21 of 22 from the floor, en route to 44 points, and his 60th win in 60 college games up until that point. Not too shabby. The grainy signs of his offensive repertoire were on display. The bank shot, his activity, dexterity, and of course, the passing. Like most players, Walton probably peaked as a passer later in his career, especially with slightly more space to work with in the 1980s. Back in 77 and 78, at the height of his overall powers, his passing was defined by hitting swirling cutters from the mid and high post area. Some of these were like water polo passes, just flipping the ball over heads in really tight quarters. But the defining characteristic of these passes was speed and accuracy.
Let's go.
Older centers could occasionally throw flashier passes than Walton from these cornerstone spots, but Walton's volume and efficiency was unmatched until that point in time. Note his little hop to create a better delivery angle over the top. Portland's half-court game was largely built off cutters buzzing around Walton like this. He has multiple options here if there's any opening, and his speed-accuracy combination resembles a modern quarterback throwing tight short yardage completions. Today we might just see a crowded lane where everyone's covered, but Walton sees a pass behind the hoop, the only window to thread this needle through. Compare that to another Blazer big, Lloyd Neal, who misses a Walton special here, only to have Big Red show him how it's done. Walton's vision stems from reading the game so well at the team level, knowing who's supposed to go where and what options are available. With the overplay on the pass, he leads the cutter into space, and again, what accuracy on the release. Walton's also known.
So that's just pure IQ. That's what that is. That's pure IQ. He looking at the game at a different perspective. Like, it's like if Larry Bird was how tall is Bill Walton? 7'3"? That's basically what it was. You know, gifted at the pass game. I mean, yeah, he can score at will if he needs to, but he's more designed for the pass. You see what I'm saying? He don't have to be the fastest. He don't got to be the strongest. As long as he can find the open cutter, that's how they ran the offense. That's how Portland ran the offense back then. So I'm learning now a little bit more. I'm understanding a little bit. I still feel like, you know, he got a lot in his bag that we're not seeing yet, or he didn't show because of how the game was played. Now, the game was played a whole lot different back then. I understand, but, you know, I'm still learning. Let me just finish watching, and then we'll discuss it at the end. Y'all can just let me know too, because, you know, I like to hear.
Known for his outlet passing, and he mostly flung these toward the mid-court after ripping down a rebound. It was almost like a single motion, grabbing and firing to start Portland's vaunted fast break. But he wasn't throwing touchdowns on these like some of the other great outlet passers of that era already were, and in the limited game footage in public, the one he tried got away from him a bit. His more notable weakness to me is passing on the move. His handle wasn't really functional, and that meant that his half-court passing was largely stationary, limited to whatever outpost he caught the ball from. Of course, most big men at the time couldn't pass on the move, nor was the game conducive to them running pick and roll, so relative to his time, Walton was certainly among the best passing bigs to come along, and perhaps the best ever at finding cutters. All of Walton's missed games from injury give us insight into his value for Portland. In games where Walton was the only missing rotational player, Portland assisted on 54% of its field goals in 1977 and 1978. Add Walton in and that number jumped to nearly 58%. His outlet passing had a similar effect on pace. With Walton, the Blazers played at a slightly above average pace for the time, and without him, they averaged 4 fewer possessions a game, which would have made them one of the slower teams in the league. The total effect on offense was that the Blazers were 3.7 points better than average with him, but only 1.2 points better without him. That is still a solid offense without Big Bill, largely because his replacements were good scorers. Tom Owens averaged 19 points per game and 4 assists in 1979, and the aforementioned Lloyd Neal was a good scorer too. Walton was a similar scorer to those two, at least statistically, going to that jump hook as a bread and butter move. He had nice touch on this, and while it certainly wasn't the sky hook, that's for the next episode, Bill could release this cleanly most of the time without too much of a setup. It was a back to the basket move, but it was also used at the end of a little face-up like this when headed right. He could also knock down mid-range jumpers, preferring to go glass on these whenever possible. Big Red could walk into these, but also liked a turnaround after a single dribble.
Bro, Big Red, I guess that's what they call him. I don't know. I'm not 100% sure on this, but if that's what we call him, that's what we're going to call him. You feel what I'm saying? But like I'm saying, yeah, he was just he's a Larry Bird. This is Larry Bird. He probably the first version of Larry Bird. Like, I think he's older. Was he older than? He is older than. Yeah, I think he's older than Larry Bird. So we're going to say the Bird for the Bird. You get what I'm saying? Like, the way he's playing, I'm seeing a lot of Bird's game. I'm seeing a lot of, okay, back to the basket. Let me get these quick little, fadeaway floaters. Let me play smart. Let me get these little tap passes in. Let me do stuff like that. So his offense is smooth. It's not a gimmick to his game. It's just smooth, clean basketball. And that's how it has to be sometimes. Some people play better like that. And Bill and Big Red, Larry, They did that. So I mean, I gave my props when the props is due.
His range on these jumpers was
Look
maybe
at
out
that.
to 17 or 18 feet, probably limited by that funky form that kept his
Yeah.
free throw shooting around 70% at his peak. His scoring moves were decisive like this, but he didn't possess an overwhelming scoring arsenal. Adjusted for inflation to
Ooh.
2020 numbers, Walton averaged about
finish that.
20 to 21 points per 75 possessions during this 2-year peak, and his scoring efficiency was 4 to 5 percentage points ahead of the league. Interestingly,
finish.
his scoring did slide a touch in his 19 playoff games, averaging closer to 17 points per 75 when adjusting for inflation, with slightly lower efficiency than in the regular season. During that 77 playoff run, Walton was the second leading scorer on the team, but only the fourth leading scorer when adjusting for pace, a testament to Portland's balanced attack built off of Walton's passing. But the Blazers weren't a dominant playoff offense, in part because of Bill's shortcoming as a scorer. He also added value with his activity, first as a cutter, knowing when to read this opening for a dive cut and lob. This kind of off-ball play adds value around higher-end talent, and it led to this vintage Blazer Mania sequence in the 1977 finals against Philadelphia.
What a sequence for the Blazers!
Walton was always looking for little soft spots in the defense, finding offensive rebounding opportunities
hook
and
that?
hyper
Did he hook that around the back, around the backboard? It looked like he hooked it around the backboard.
percentage second chance points that cleaned up for his teammates.
Ooh.
He wasn't a skywalker, but his size and quick leaping allowed him to finish plays around the rim and score off of rebounds like this, boosting his scoring numbers a bit in the process with these high percentage follow-ups. By the way, Walton was huge. His height is debated, but he wasn't much smaller than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, who stood 7'2" without shoes, and here he is next to Robert Parrish, listed at 7'1", and Kevin McHale, listed at 6'10". That size contributed to his crippling injuries, as his feet weren't anatomically capable of supporting his big frame, and the shock of all that running and jumping. Walton missed 3 full seasons before ramping his career back up in 1983 in San Diego. Again, he's not dwarfed by Kareem here at all, but boy did that size and mobility help him protect the paint. Walton's massive impact on the game, his very inclusion in this series, is primarily because of his defensive value created with his length, awareness, and motor. Most 7-footers aren't super active and able to read the game,
Give me
but
this.
back before the three-point line, this was arguably the most valuable trait in the entire sport.
Give me that.
We'll
boy.
see
What
why
you
in a
doing?
moment.
Talking about.
Filming birds of prey is not for those who have a fear of heights. I graduated from the practice tree to the 200-foot monster.
And bring her up. Beautiful.
To fly and hold the eagle was a landmark of my life.
Walton was a classic paint
What the
protector,
hell?
and because of the rules back then, he almost served like a goaltender, patrolling the area in front of the hoop and challenging all comers. The dangerous Doug Collins runs into a wall here, or I guess a Walton. There's a good joke in there somewhere. But Bill was always really well positioned. He sagged off players without the ball in textbook fashion, but was ready to pounce in these spots. He was one of the most active big defenders in league history, helping when needed or stepping out and challenging shots in the mid-range, ambushing Pete Maravich here, who thought he was in the clear. You'll notice his hands are always out, clogging passing lanes so teams don't sneak those dimes through to cutters like the Blazers did, and his hands were active targeting the ball, here deflecting this jump pass.
Ooh. All right.
Like great rim protectors, he was accurate jabbing at the basketball, and he would pull his hand away to avoid
It's a
fouling
big dude,
at times.
man.
Bill's quick bunny hop couldn't get him over the top of the square like some of the great modern shot blockers, and this meant that occasionally strong athletes or crafty finishers could slip one through. Here he slides down in position, but mistimes his jump, and that throws off the contest a bit, but his typical reactions were quick, and with sound position, he bothered so many shots. He wasn't a stiff either, comfortably chasing wings outside the paint to harass their jumpers. Remember, back then, bigs couldn't really be exposed on an island against quicker players because they didn't have to chase out to the three-point line. The game in those days was built more around the post-up, with offenses running through the center. Unlike Walton, most high-end big men were looking to score more than pass, and that created even more defensive responsibility for the bigs of that era. In the 1977 Western Conference Finals, Walton famously battled Kareem Abdul-Jabbar for 4 games, trying his best to sit on Kareem's lethal skyhook and force him left, with mixed results. That's better than most against Jabbar, and Walton's size and acumen helped slow Kareem a bit compared to normal centers. Here he tracks him well without the ball, happily forcing Jabbar left, but sometimes there's no stopping Kareem. Walton also stayed active, working for better defensive position, here leading to a steal, and against more mortal figures, his man defense was highly effective, banging and then going vertical against Darryl Dawkins in the 77 finals. Squint a bit and you'll see Hall of Famer Dan Issel, more of a shooting center, get stuffed by Walton on this jumper, and Bill was always using his size and positioning to defend opponents like this. He was the original big fundamental, taking a textbook approach to activity, positioning, vertical contests, and so on. We can see the effect his man defense had on opponents during this 1977 and 78 stretch by looking at the 48 games
I'm a defensive guy, so this is where I thrive at. So we're gonna see. Here we go.
he played against other all-star centers. For instance, Kareem averaged 25.9 points per 36 minutes on 61% true shooting against everyone else, but in 8 games against Walton averaged 24.5 on 57% true shooting.
That's a stop.
If we do this for the other 7 all-star centers during these years, only Big Bob Lanier and another southpaw, Dave Cowens, avoid a pretty clear drop-off against Walton. Now, team factors influence data like this, but numbers like these crystallize the effect of a superstar defender. In total, these all-stars scored nearly 2 fewer points per 36 on 4% worse true shooting against Walton, an effect that compares favorably to all but the all-time great.
Unless you Colin, I guess that's his name, Cowan. Unless you him, bro, because he's the only one that went up on Walton. But I mean, when you look at this chart, it shows exactly what it is. If I got you scoring less points on me than you scoring on the league, I'm a better defender than everybody else you're playing. And these ain't no no name guys. Hayes, Moses, you got Kareem right there, Gilmore. Yeah, you got some hoopers on here. And for him to come down, yeah, I mean, you can't even fault him, man. And then the crazy thing is, I want to see his assist average. You know what I'm saying? Like, I want to see the assist average for his career. Like, because a big man that don't shoot a lot but passes a lot, I want to see that. I like stuff like that because, I mean, in today's era, I feel like the big man is obsolete. Like, we don't even use them no more. It's like, oh, we're gonna get another, power forward to play that position. Take another forward to play another power forward position. Take you see what I'm saying? And then they run like 4 guards and a power forward, and it's not like it's like the center is dying. I don't like that. I don't like the fact that this the centers. But we don't finish it. My fault.
Post defenders. In many ways, Portland was built around Walton on both ends. Their guards could be more aggressive pressuring the ball with Big Bill behind them, while Portland didn't need another paint protector out there to take away from its speed and skill game on offense. If we go back to those games Walton missed, we can see how insanely valuable his defense was. The Blazers gave up about 103 points per 100 in the 26 games with just Walton missing, but only 95.6 with him in the lineup, a jump from the 3rd worst defense in the league to the very best defense in the league.
With him playing?
This is likely beyond the offensive impact of any player in the first 30 years of the league, perhaps save for Oscar Robertson or Jerry West. Overall, the Blazers were actually outscored in those 2 seasons without Walton. They had a negative adjusted point differential equivalent to a 37-win team. But with him, they had a plus 8.5 point differential, a 64-win pace. Among players to miss at least 20 games over a single or multi-year period, that nearly 10-point increase with Walton is the 2nd largest in the first 70 years of the NBA, and that came in an era of parity where winning 55 games was rare. Only
Okay.
Nate Thurmond, another defensive stud, was associated with a larger increase, but
That was
his team
back in
was far worse
67.
than those Blazers, who went a stunning 87-28 in those games with Big Bill and just 10-16 without him. Again, most of that value was defensive, so fittingly it was the Blazers' defense that shined in 19 playoff games, holding opponents nearly 5.5 points below their regular season scoring efficiencies. In those 2 seasons, Walton and company also played 8 games without their only other All-Star, Maurice Lucas, and in those 8 games, the Blazers went 8-0. These indicators, with players moving in and out of the lineup, do still
Good
have
pass.
some noise. We can't say for certain Walton was worth 9.5 points, but 26 games is enough to know that he was likely worth at least, say, 6 points to those Blazers. And that's an historically huge number. Combine that with other factors like Lucas's missed time, the playoff performance, and what we can see on film, and it's clear Walton was the linchpin of a budding dynasty. In 1979, with Michael Thompson, Clay's dad, replacing Walton in the starting lineup and some minor bench changes, the
Oh, you talking
Blazers
about Klay
reverted
Thompson. I'm
back
like,
to
who you
playing
talking
just
about?
over 500 basketball, reinforcing Bill's massive impact. I think it's fair to look at their team construction and think that there isn't another center in league history who could have maximized that fit as well as the big redhead. Our best impact metrics that reach back in time view Walton as having, say, a top 40 peak in playoff history. His
Top
2-year
40?
regular season numbers
Okay.
were similar, by the way. And these metrics respect his defense, likely reflecting how excellent his fit in Portland was. But even in a less optimal situation, they still suggest that he belongs
man, I
in this
just woke
kind of
up. I shouldn't.
conversation. And given how well his defense and his passing would travel to other teams, I don't think there are 10 centers in NBA history who peaked higher than Bill Walton. For more historical content,
All right, man, that's the end of this video, man. I hope y'all guys did enjoy this one. But look, man, we're going to break it down real quick. I'm going to speak facts to y'all and let y'all know what I'm saying. Look, Bill Walton, I mean, from what I'm seeing on the stat line, I mean, he good. If I had to choose, you know, it's dependent on the team you build, bro. Like, and that's really what the difference. You got a lot of great guards. Bill Walton is a good center. But if you don't got any good guards, you take Kareem, and that's just the basis of it. Because Bill Walton can facilitate the ball. He's, like he said, he's one of the best big man passers in the league. We've got his defense ability. I love defense. Defense wins games, and I will always say that through and through. So I mean, it's hard to say I wouldn't have picked Bill Walton. I mean, he would have been a starter on my team. Like if I'm, all right, let's say if I'm building a team back then, and I got 1, maybe 2 picks, and I'm like, okay, maybe like the 13th, 14th pick, Bill Walton, you know, stuff like that and this is just a draft through just all the players. I'm not just saying his year, and just all through the players. I would pick Bill Walton because I know Kareem's gonna be gone. I know, you know, like dang, Parrish is gonna be gone. I know these players are gonna be gone. If I got the right medicine and got him in the medical room a lot and got him healthy, I don't see why Bill Walton wouldn't win 4 or 5 championships. And that's just the facts, man. But, man, if y'all like this video, man, and y'all want to join the solid team, hit that subscribe button and like this video. I'll see y'all in the next one.